back and forth. I'm gonna escape pod activating, and then they look back and they're like, "Huh?" And then Casey's just like waving like goodbye, more or less.
Yeah, they talk a little bit, but might as well. Fucking might as well. Yeah.
My name is Nate.
My name's Mike.
And what the hell was that?
Yeah. Yeah. What the hell was that?
Oh, man. Okay, so longtime listeners might know that we've had a little bit of a hiatus
Right.
In releasing episodes.
Uh-huh.
And we finally got back into the swing of recording episodes, and we're ready to get back on track of regularly releasing things.
Yes.
And then we had several positive COVID cases.
Yeah.
And then just generally busy schedules after that. So here we are, several weeks after recording our comeback episode, which has not yet been released. So by the time that this is released, it'll probably be on a fixed regular schedule, so this makes no difference to you, listener. But for us, it has been a bit since we have recorded again.
It's true.
And a very long time since we initially talked about seeing this movie, when it was actually in theaters.
Yes, it's true.
And that movie, if you have not gleaned from the title of this episode yet, is Moonfall.
Yes, it is.
And wow. This movie is something else. I expected it to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
But it was way beyond any of my wildest imaginations.
Yeah, the trailer did a better job of making this look like laughable and entertaining.
Yeah.
Like one of those types of bad movies. But no, it was just really just a long, boring, bad movie.
Yeah, no, that hits the nails on the heads.
Is that can you do that?
There are multiple nails.
Can you do that?
Each one being the different adjective that you gave it.
Okay, that's all right. Sure. I'm okay with that.
This is also a little bit of an interesting episode for us because typically, if you're unfamiliar with the structure of our podcast, what we usually do is we will watch a movie and then more or less immediately with a max of like 30 minutes, however long it takes us to drive home from the theater,
right,
put on a pot of coffee or something like
that.
Right. Within 30 minutes to maybe an hour at the most, we are sitting down and recording this podcast after viewing a movie.
Right.
This was the first episode I think that we have ever done where we watched a movie and then had some time in between. Because we watched this last night, and we were so bored to death and tired by the end of it that we decided it best to take this up in the morning.
Yeah, well, look, it was late. It was an exhausting movie. Well, late for me.
Yeah.
An exhausting movie, and I'm not drinking coffee right now, so, I had no lifelines.
Oh, no, it's understandable. But with that, we had a little bit of extra time to mull over this movie, have it stew in our brain. And I don't know about Mike, but in my case, I did actually watch a few videos on YouTube about the movie.
Okay, sure.
To see other people's
takes,
thoughts. Yeah,
right.
And yeah, it seems to be pretty much the same as ours.
That's good. That's good.
Which I more or less expected. However, as we were both kind of shockingly surprised, when you go on Google reviews, there's some quite positive reviews.
Yeah, there's some people who love it.
Yeah, it has about a 5 on IMDb, which is more generous than I would be.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is sometimes there is a movie that we watch that is so droll or boring or something along those lines that like I get back and it spins me into like an existential crisis regarding like the podcast itself, and I'm like, what am I doing it for? I'm like, what the fuck? What in God's name? Like, we just watched these movies, 2 hours of my life gone in this fucking trash heap of a film, and then what? I just have to relive it and talk. Just fuck the amount of time I have to give just giving this movie more attention in my brain somehow feels like a net loss for me. Like I almost would have rather done like a type of situation where like we watch it once and talk about it live, and then I just never have to think about this movie ever again. And the problem is that like now I have to talk about this film and think about this film more, And I just want this film as far away from any kind of rental space in my mind as possible.
Yeah, no, I get that. I completely understand. Yeah, that's why I think I before we chose to watch this movie yesterday, because we weren't entirely sure what we were watching when we got together. I had mentioned that I had found a Reddit, like Ask Reddit thread that was the prompt was movies that you know are bad but are still enjoyable to watch, and that is more what I enjoy. I think most people enjoy, because I don't know. I hate walking away from something and just being like, wow, that wasn't fun. You know, because actually that kind of brings me back to as we've talked about before on the podcast, I'm kind of a Marvel movie defender. Like, I don't think that they're like the peak of cinema or anything.
Sure.
But also, like, they're fun. That they're fun movies. That's the bottom line of it. And it annoys me when I see people online, like, just complain about those.
Right.
Because, you know, my thought is, okay, well, don't see the movie. You know, if it's not your cup of tea, don't see the movie.
Right.
Which is quite hypocritical given, you know, what we do. But that being said, what I like doing, I don't like doing episodes like this. You know, when we watch a movie where it's like, wow, that was both bad and I didn't enjoy myself.
Right.
We do the podcast because that's what we do, but I don't like doing that.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
If it was up to me, I would watch bad movies and have fun all the time, and avoid movies that aren't fun.
Right.
So yeah, I wish that people would kind of understand that, like, if a movie is fun, then like you still get something out of it.
Right. But Moonfall is neither. So
Yeah. So
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it all comes full circle here. So I have a lot to say, but I guess we can kind of save that for after the plot. Do you wanna get into this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like we can probably breeze through this plot pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's really not much.
There's
really not much.
really not much. I should probably pull up a cast list or something.
Oh, that's probably a good idea because I don't know either.
Yeah, I know Halle Berry plays the like female lead, but I don't know her character's.
Fowler?
Yeah, Fowler. Something Fowler. I don't know how to pronounce this name. Jocinda, I guess?
Sure.
Jocinda Fowler. She's
Okay.
just referred to as Fowler. We'll keep it at that so we
Right.
don't embarrass ourselves any further. We have Brian Harper, who's our white guy astronaut hero man.
Right.
There's Casey, who is the nut job type dude.
Well, to be clear, it's not Casey, it's
KC.
Yeah.
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 And then Sonny. And anybody else is not important in the slightest.
Sonny, frankly, is barely important.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's being quite generous to include him in that list of important characters.
Right.
But that being said, movie starts, and we have a space mission with Fowler and Brian Harper and some other unnamed astronauts.
I'm
and
sure he has a name, but it's not relevant.
They're doing a terrible rendition of Africa by Toto.
Yeah, which I don't think we have to talk about that.
Yeah, no, not really. I felt like I couldn't let it be
no,
unstated.
I feel like acknowledging that gives more recognition to the people who wrote this film than they deserve.
No, I agree. I feel like I see it more as we need to hold them accountable for this, because it's like, no, because that's clearly like when that movie was being written, I'm sure that's probably like the peak of like Africa being a meme, kind of, like, you know.
Could have probably.
And yeah, so that's probably them trying to be relatable, and I'm not going to stand for that, so I'm not going to let that fly under the radar.
Well, you know, like I think that the intention of the writers in the scene was to have this astronaut cornily singing Africa as like
what? He's so relatable.
Right, yes, exactly.
He's just like me.
And so I think if we bring it up and talk about how like cringy it was, then the writers win, because they go, oh, well, that was the point of the scene, for you to like see this, and you see that like they're human and they do cringy things, and that's like part of the comedy of the situation. I think we shouldn't play their game at all, frankly. I think the writers should do better, and we should tell them that it was just a
clearly
poor.
You and I have different views when it comes to direct action for movie theaters or movie production. But all the same, we can agree to disagree here, and it happened, and there's nothing we can do about it at this point.
It didn't happen.
And similarly to like human cringe, I guess is the best way I can put it. In that same category of singing Africa, we also have Brian Harper talking to unimportant astronaut number one.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, Halle Berry's character, Fowler, is my work wife.
Yeah. Yeah. All the conversation and banter in this opening scene is so sterile and, like, rigid. It's awful. It's just really terrible.
And then Halle Berry, Fowler, says something along the lines of, like, I'm spending the honeymoon that should be celebrating the marriage of me and my actual husband with you in space.
Right. What I like, because I brought this up, this still sticks with me in retrospect, is that they're like, oh, like, you're spending your honeymoon up here with us in space. And Halle Berry's character, in her, like, analysis of the situation, is like, well, it was either Italy or up here in space. To which she notes, like, Italy does not have the view that space has, which is accurate. I can respect that. But what I then said to Nate was, well, I feel like you're missing an essential part of the honeymoon thing, which is you could either be in Italy with your husband for your honeymoon, or you could be in space without your husband.
And your work husband.
Not on your honeymoon. Yeah. So it's like, who cares about... I feel like the essential part of the honeymoon is that it's about the married couple being together. It's not like her husband's in space with her.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I agree. It's interesting. But anyway, while they're doing all that, beep, boop, pop, pop, and oh, no, the space station's not working all of a sudden, and all the electronics have gone out or something like that. And then, ow, I bumped my head and I'm falling unconscious, says Fowler. And then comes nanobot monstrosity swarm thing that comes and presumably kills the other astronauts. Or no, definitely kills the other astronauts, except for Brian. Oh, yeah. Well, maybe I felt like there were more than one. I don't know.
No, it was just those three.
Not Brian, however many people that encompasses, be one or many, dies. And then Brian sees this, but somehow like ends up getting to safety. And then he checks to see that Fowler is alive. He's like, oh, okay, good. I'm going to pilot the ship back home now.
Yeah, there's like a short scene after they get back from the moon where like Fowler and Harper are being interviewed by like NASA people.
Okay,
and they're like, "What?" They're like, "What caused like the wreck?" And Harper's like, "It was some fucked up alien type of thing or something." And they were like, "We feel like it was a solar flare." Yeah. And Harper's like, "No, it wasn't that. It was definitely aliens." And they're like,
and Fowler's like, "I was knocked out, but I feel like the logical thing is the solar flare."
Yeah, well, you know, like I don't know if Fowler is like 100% like, no, it was a solar flare. They're more or less like, hey, Fowler, is it like even possible maybe that it could have been a solar flare instead of like nanobot alien thing? And Fowler's like, I was knocked out, but yeah, I'd say I guess it was possible that it could have been a solar flare. And NASA's like, great, it was a solar flare. And so naturally, Harper's just like, all right, fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah, so I guess he like walks out of NASA.
Or gets fired, whatever, who knows?
Yeah, Mad Libs, pick whichever fits
your
whatever
feels better. Yeah.
And yeah, so now he is a disgraced astronaut, and we hear that via like news broadcast on the TV of saying it's now been 18 months since the disgraced astronaut, blah 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 blah, and then we have disgraced astronaut's family like packing up and stuff, and his son is like, I feel weirdly about this situation or something, and I hate going to have to live in New Jersey now.
Yeah, we're leaving New Jersey anyway. He's I don't know what it is. There's something where he's like, is Dad going to be at insert whatever violin recital? Is Dad going to be at my violin recital today? And Mom's like, oh, sweetie, Dad's, you know, he can't make your violin recital today. And then like the kid's like, Dad never makes my violin recitals. And she's like, how about if he's like here for Thanksgiving? Won't that be great? And he's like, I don't even care anymore.
I hate Thanksgiving.
I'm just a desensitized child due to my father's absence. And and then he either says, I hate New Jersey, or I hate this more than New Jersey. One of the two. I missed it. I forget. But yes.
It was after that, I think, that we turned on the subtitles.
Yes, yes, it was. Yes.
Anywho, then we have another time skip of 10 years. We see Casey, our local crackpot. KC. Yes, excuse me.
So KC, as we learn throughout the film, before this moment, is somewhat of like an online loon or whatever. He's a conspiracy theorist called a, quote, megastructuralist who believes that the moon is a megastructure, something like a Dyson sphere, which I guess is actually a theoretical thing that exists, but like, who knows? But he believes the moon is a made thing, is a created thing, not like a natural occurrence, but it is like constructed. And so that is his belief, and he is constantly perpetuating this theory and ideas. What he is doing when we're introduced to him is breaking into some kind of office. We don't really know what. But he's calling somebody and saying, hey, it's me, like Dr. blah, 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 pretending to be somebody. And he says, send me the latest numbers you have on like the current like orbit of the moon or whatever. Send it to this like area. And they're like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. So he does it. And he goes to his real job after he does that. And it's made evident that he does this somewhat frequently because, you know, like one of like the cleaning staff is kind of like, hey, one of the mops is missing again. And he's like, oh, shit. So he's got to like run. And so he goes to his real job, which is like fast food
person.
Yeah, window attendant. And he's like 7.5 minutes late. And we get like a really needlessly overbearing boss who's like, I gotta write you up for this, Brian, or whatever. His name's Casey. But Brian, his name's Casey.
That's how bad at the job he is.
But like that character didn't need to exist at all because this guy is never shown again. Like, there's no reason his boss had to be like the stereotypical dick boss. Anyway, so he's taking some lady's order, but then he gets the numbers and he takes a quick glance at them and is like, oh my god, the moon's out of orbit. Like, holy shit. I just realized the moon's losing its orbit. And for him, I think this is the type of thing where, like, this, he already believes and already knows the moon to be a megastructure, but, like, these numbers show that something's going out of whack with it, and shows that though he is a bit paranoid, in this case, he is correct, and due to his paranoia and constant observance of the moon, has caught that the moon is falling out of orbit. And so he's now like...
And will lead to catastrophe.
Yes. So he goes and tries to call NASA, and he calls NASA through the only inroad he has, which is like
the
gift shop number. And so they're like, I work in the gift shop, dude. Like, I can send you to customer service. And he's like, yeah, do that or whatever. So then he goes back to his apartment. And
you see his cat, Fuzz Aldrin.
Yes, his cat. Oh, if you didn't get it, this guy likes the moon. And so he has like astronaut memorabilia all over, and also it's about aliens because he has like Area 51 bumper stickers and stuff. And so his cat's name is Fuzz Aldrin because and the cat pees outside of the litter box, much to Casey's dismay. And so he puts Fuzz in the litter box, picks up the piece of newspaper that Fuzz has peed on, and notices that World Astronaut Day or something is coming up, and there is a talk being given by an astronaut. This astronaut is Harper, by the way. I guess we don't know that right now, but maybe we'll find out soon enough. And he says, oh, this is a great in for me to bring my discovery that the moon is out of orbit to the world and the planet. So then we get Fowler in the kind of like NASA offices, and they're all kind of talking, and like, you know, all like the NASA nerds are like, so the moon's out of orbit, we noticed. And Fowler's like, the hell are you talking about? And NASA's lead guy's like, the hell are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, looks like the moon is out of orbit. What we're going to do is we're going to use the shuttle we have right now, and we're going to send it on up.
See what's going on.
See what's going on with the moon, and that's kind of like their plan as it stands. Casey goes to the International Astronaut Day thing, and walks in trying to find the astronaut. The astronaut has not appeared yet, and all the kids are like, "Are you the astronaut?" And another kid is like, "Someone's got to teach us about space." So Casey is like, "I can teach you about space." So he like sits in and
starts teaching and
starts doing that. Meanwhile.
Then Brian, in his apartment, is waking up, and you can see through the typical tropes of bachelor life that he's a little bit not put together.
On the borderline of eviction. Yeah. Oh, those bachelors.
I mean, name one bachelor who's not on the borderline
of eviction.
So he wakes up. his landlord is knocking on the door saying, "Hey, Brian, I'm here to evict you." And then he hops out the window and gets on his cool motorcycle.
Which, as we understand, is the way to avoid eviction forever.
Yeah, if they can't physically hand you the eviction notice, you're good.
You're golden.
So he makes his way to the astronaut day thing at the museum, and he finally gets there. And I think he kind of walks up and sees Casey, giving this lecture on superstructures or megastructures to these children. Yeah. So he does that, and then I think KC is like, "Oh shit, there's my astronaut man. Hey, astronaut man, I have important news for you." And then Harper's like, "Oh geez, another crazy guy."
Right.
And he's like, "Security, get this crazy guy who is impersonating me out of here." And then as the security try to drag him out, he's like, "Read my papers," and throws them up into the air.
Yeah.
And then gets escorted off the premises.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Brian continues to do his thing, presumably at the astronaut day fair thing. And then in space, we have the astronauts who were sent by Fowler and the rest of NASA to see what's going on with the moon.
Right.
And they get up there and they send they get up there and they notice there's like a hole in the crater, like just like a cylindrical hole in the middle of a crater in the moon.
Yes.
So they're like, all right, let's send a probe down there and see what happens. So they do that, and it goes like 25 meters down, and they make sure to narrate every like 5 to 10 meters.
It's going. All right, that's 5 meters. 10. 15.
20?
20 meters.
Oh, wow, it stopped at 25.
Yeah.
What could that mean? Oh, it's coming back up. Okay,
20.
15,
15.
10, 5, exactly that. And then coming out of this cylindrical hole is the nanobot alien thing that then attacks the ship, and this time just like mauls the astronauts' faces, just
absolutely
fucks them up. And they all die.
Let's go. Jinx.
Yeah, right? That was good. This is good podcast material.
Fucks them up in unison. Like, that's great.
So they die, and I think that, like the NASA people have like a live feed to this, and they're like, huh, okay, that's not good.
And then KC is going to visit his mother in the nursing home that she inhabits.
Yeah.
And so KC is like, "Hey, Mom, like, how's your dementia?" And she's like, "Pretty demented, son." And
who are you?
Yeah, right. And so basically in her lucid state, she's like, "Oh, I tell everybody that my son's a big shot, like NASA worker," and Casey is like, "No, I'm a fucking loser, Ma." And Ma,
who are you?
Yeah, well, no, not yet, but we'll get there. But Casey's mom is like, "Oh, well, that's not true." And Casey's like, "I have made a really big discovery, but no one will listen to me." And Casey's mom is like, "Then make them hear you." And Casey's like, "Make them hear me." And then Casey's mom is like, "Who are you?" And
He
he's
just
like,
goes up to NASA headquarters with a bomb strapped to his chest.
"Yay!" Yeah, I remember when it happened. We were like, "So what? He goes and buys himself a gun? Like, what is this? Like, he's gonna come back and be like, 'All right, you're gonna listen to me now.'"
Yeah.
But yeah. So basically, we're back. After that, we're back at the NASA headquarters thing. I'm trying to. There's probably some scene with Brian and like his child at some point, because it seems like Brian's left out of the scene rotation here. But
yeah,
I think there's some point where like he talks to his ex-wife.
Well,
his son
think,
gets arrested or some shit.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, his son gets arrested, and then we have like a very brief court scene.
Brian's in there and he's like, "Look, my son made a mistake," and the judge is like, "He was speeding unreasonably and had a lot of illegal substances in his car." And the dad's like, "Oh, look, can we just like let this go?" He's like, "No, we can't just let it go, my man. And you really need to calm down." And then the lawyer, who we learn has been hired by Brian's ex-wife's new husband and or Sonny's stepfather.
Yeah.
This lawyer is like, "Judge, just tell us the bail and we'll pay it. Money is no object." To which the judge is like, "That makes your client sound like a flight risk.
Yeah.
So I am postponing this hearing and bail setting for another week. So thank you for that." And so then Brian's dad gets up. He's like, "Oh, come on, my man. Like, what's the fucking deal here? Like, we can't just be easier on him." And the judge is like, "No, I can't just be easier on him." Anyway,
That's not how the U.S. justice system works. Yeah. So that seems unimportant, and for the most part, it is.
Yeah.
But there's one point where that becomes a minor plot detail.
Right. So now
Yeah.
we're back at NASA.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like a lot of stuff was cut and out of this scene, and it was edited poorly. But basically,
What happens is they're all sitting around and they're like, all right, fuck. The moon is out of orbit, and furthermore, we have this alien shit we got to deal with. Let's just sit on this for a bit. Let's just think about how we want to approach this situation. No need to get the public involved yet. And then as soon as that happens, like, news breaks because evidently KC has gone to social media with his, like, papers and stuff, and is like,
that he got from NASA,
right,
illegitimately.
right. And he's like, the moon's out of orbit. And for the first time ever, somebody has posted a big giant fucking document on Twitter who was a conspiracy theorist nobody before, and the entire world is like,
Oh, shit.
oh, holy shit, the moon's out of orbit. This guy's credible and telling the truth because we can all make sense of these figures.
Yeah.
The moon is out of orbit, to which they receive this news, and NASA's like, Christ, I guess now we do have to tell the public about the moon being out of orbit.
Yeah.
So before we do the press conference, Brian is back at the courthouse, still talking to the judge, because everyone's evacuating the courthouse now because they're like,
oh, the moon's going to crash into the Earth.
the moon's out of orbit. Like,
die.
we're fucked. We're fucked. And so the judge is leaving the courthouse, and Brian's like, hey, on account of society... Well, he's not arguing this point at all. He's like, hey, seriously, though, can you please just, like, take it easy on my son, or, like, set the bail, or, like, can I pick him up, or let him out, or what's the deal? And the judge is like, no, we can't do special treatment. Also, the moon's kind of crashing into Earth, so goodbye.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like Brian could have made a much more strong argument. Just like, well, dude, if the moon's crashing into fucking Earth, we're just going to leave this kid in a fucking jail cell?
The justice system is going to be, null and void because
right.
the moon will be crashing into the Earth.
Yeah,
Can I have my son?
Right. It's like if there was any time for you to, like, break the judicial law, like, now's the time to let my 18-year-old son out of jail.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen. So
that does not happen.
The son is still in jail, and... then we more or less, I think, get like a quick little glimpse into his wife's perspective.
Yeah.
Where she's like talking to her new husband on the phone. And he's like, hey, I'm seeing the news. This is looking pretty rough. Why don't we go to Aspen, Colorado, where this is never explicitly said, but the audience can assume it's like a house that we have up there because we're rich. And... then she's like, what? We're going to leave without my son? I can't do that. And he's like, no, like, he'll get out and find us. But no, seriously, let's go to Aspen without your son.
Well, and for the characterization they're going for, Tom, the stepfather, is pretty serious about trying to get the kid out of jail.
Yeah, no,
but
that's me being rude to the depiction of this character.
But he's like, look, we do got to get to Aspen, though, because Colorado is going to be safe as, like, the tides start to crash to play. Everyone seems to get almost immediately the larger implications of the moon being falling out of orbit.
Yeah.
And I don't know when all this news spread, but like, yeah, so they're like, all right, so the tides are going to start coming in. Things are going to get pretty fucked up. We should get to high ground in the middle of America. So Colorado, it will be pretty safe for us. Yeah. And so they're like, all right, let's go to Colorado.
So they work towards that goal. And meanwhile,
it's time for a short press conference where Fowler and the current director of NASA basically are standing, but the director of NASA is speaking. Fowler's just kind of there on his right side. And he's like, nothing to worry about. We got it all under control. No need for panic. And then walks back inside, and Fowler's like, you just lied to everybody about that whole nothing to worry about type of thing, because you and I know that in like 3 weeks' time, the moon's crashing into Earth. And the director of NASA is like, yeah, well...
not my problem because I'm not the director of NASA anymore.
Yeah,
and then gives her his NASA clearance.
He's like, I'm going out of, like, I'm fucking out of here.
Yeah.
Like, we're fucked.
And like I'm gonna level with you. We know about this AI alien thing, and it's like under secure lock and key. Only high up NASA people can see.
Right.
But again, I'm no longer that person because I'm giving it to you so I can go die with my family. But you can snoop into whatever you want, I guess.
Right. He's like, we have no chance with this thing, so I'm done. And Fowler's like, well, tell me, what are you hiding? Like, what's the big secrets here? He's like, you want to know the secrets? Here's my badge. You're the new director of NASA. You go dig around and do whatever you want to do with that, but I'm fucking out. And so he does that.
Yeah.
After news that the moon is crashing into Earth hits, Brian Harper is like, fuck those papers. I got to go find those papers. He's like, oh, that fucking crazy guy called this. He's like, shit, I got to go get those papers. So he's digging through like the trash outside the museum, and a custodian comes by and is like, hey, buddy, you're that astronaut from earlier. What the hell are you doing here? He's like, I'm looking for some papers. I can't find these papers in the trash. And the custodian's like, oh, well, you shouldn't.
He moves his foot. He's like, you mean these ones here that say moon orbital, everything's going to die?
Yes, exactly. He's like, well, you shouldn't have too much problem. There hasn't been much trash to collect it from the next. Oh, these papers. You mean these papers right next to look at these papers. Yeah, are these the papers?
Also, just in the background, you just see like the skyline of just like the city in ruins because everybody's looting and everybody very quickly was like, oh, yeah the world's ending.
Also, the moon is constantly like 500 times larger in like the sky now, and like it's just every shot of like the horizon includes like half of the moon encompassing most of the horizon.
Yeah. Also, this is something that we like joked about when we were watching the movie, but well, actually, I guess a few things. When they initially said like, hey, it's going to be like 3 weeks until the like moon is like on the Earth, essentially. They were like, oh, 3 cycles, to which Mike and I both were like, oh, 3 days.
3 days?
We found that we were very wrong. Which I think they said is actually supposed to be 3 months, but then the NASA people were like, but because of the trajectory of the orbit, it's actually more like 3 weeks.
Yes, because we're stupid, Nate. We're stupid people.
Which leads us to this. I feel like there are probably a lot more people like us who would also see like, oh, 3 cycles, so we have 3 days, and thus, would do all their apocalypse debauchery,
blow their bank accounts,
then to find out that they still have like 3 more weeks of going into work because
right before things get so crazy.
Yeah. But anyway, so he gets the papers and then looks on like the website of the guy who made it, KC.
Oh wait, real quick though, we should clarify why it is in fact 3 months and not 3 days. So obviously, something that Nate and I failed to account for is when you see the moon in the sky as it goes through its phases, each rotation of the Earth is not the moon going around the Earth, but is in fact the Earth doing its 24-hour rotation on its axis and seeing the moon in the sky once more.
Yeah.
The phases of the moon are actually the moon going through its rotation around the Earth. And so those 28-day lunar cycles would in fact be one cycle of the moon as they're talking about, which is why 3 months is about what it would be.
But we know why you're here. You're here for Moonfall. So if you want to have a more in-depth idea of this, you can check our channel for our full astronomy tutorial.
Yes.
And explanation of the lunar
Everything
cycle.
You need to know about Saturn in retrograde.
Yeah. And what to do in the event of a moonfall catastrophe. So Brian now has these papers, and he's like, oh, Dr. Casey Houseman, let me look that up. And then he finds his conspiracy website, and then through that tracks him down.
When Brian goes to the meeting of the superstructuralist, it's like KC and a bunch of like the most stereotypical kind of like dead-eyed like slash stoners kind of crowd that you can get for things like conspiracy theories, where like you get a hippie who's like, yeah, man, the moon is actually like produce inside, and then like there's old dudes shouting about how like Lee Harvey Oswald did it or some shit, and so it's
not
that
looking good.
And it's awful. It's
Yeah.
just really terrible. It's just awful. So lazy and so terrible. But KC is like the only actual like
person who
analysis
has,
out of these, or whatever you want to say. And so Brian's like, tell me about this, and Casey tells him what he thinks about the moon, and Brian's like, yeah, no, it still sounds completely fucking insane. I don't believe you. but you're right about the moon being out of orbit, so let's work with that.
Yeah, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt here. And then they go to like a diner or something to where they chat, which is like, I guess, like attached to the, or at least very next to the like apartment
the hotel
building
meeting
or
place
hotel or whatever. So anyway, they're there and they're talking and so it's this stupid sci-fi concept. Yes, okay, cool. And then we have the tide coming in, and then one of the stoner dudes like, "Hey man, the tide's coming in. We gotta get out of here." So then they're like, "Oh shit!"
Like
so then they all run to the next floor of the hotel, except for KC, who just like stands in the lobby as the like tide comes
no idea
in,
what the fuck
and
that's
then gets
about.
like swept up in it, and then it's like, "I can't swim."
Yeah.
And then Brian saves him, and then it's
Whatever,
never talked about again or important at all.
Whatever.
So then they all go upstairs and then they sleep for the night. 'Cause
Yeah.
I guess the tide is done coming up.
Right. At least for today.
Yeah. We have the dude who's like the custodian for the NASA secret files. He's about to shoot himself in the face. And then Fowler comes in and starts going through stuff. And she sees the footage from that mission that she was on with Brian and sees the alien monster thing. She's like, "Oh my God, it wasn't a solar flare, and NASA lied." And then a wheelchair guy about to shoot himself, dude, comes up and is like, "You've learned the secret, but I'm not going to kill you or do anything because it's already too late. The world's going to end."
Right.
I hope that you got the information you're looking for because it doesn't matter. Bye.
Right.
And then that is more or less the importance of that scene. And then I'm sure Mike knows better than me, and I'm wrong about this. But then I think more or less Fowler is like getting her son and his like Chinese tutor, who, as a video that I watched pointed out, was probably only there to appeal to the Chinese audience overseas. Anywho, she gets them and is on the phone with her ex-husband, who is a military dude. And basically, military dude's like, "Hey, like we're getting ready to shoot a nuke at the moon. Seems
Many
like
nukes.
multiple nukes at the moon. Seems like our best option at this point." And she's like, "No, trust me. I have I'm working on a plan. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm working on it."
Well, she says, first off, if you fire all these nukes at the moon, the fallout from all these nukes on the moon and the radiation is going to come right back down on us here on Earth. So that's a pretty stupid plan you got going there. And he's like, that's our only way.
Well, and additionally, he's like, "Well, we're going to be in a super secret military bunker."
He's like, "We'll be fine."
Also, by the way, I have, like, I don't let anybody know that I'm doing this, but I'm going to make it so that you and my son can make it here. So, meet us here. And she's like, we're going to instead try to save the world. So, hold it off as long as you can. And he's like, I trust your ex-wife, but if it comes down to it, I might have to nuke the moon.
Yes, right. Throughout the film, there's been some hypothesizing, and there's an understanding that the nanobot aliens are attracted to technology. So anything that has power and is electric is something that's going to attract the aliens, right? So, like, monitors, screens, things like this, phones. And so she says, all right, what we need to do is we need to get a shuttle, A, because there's no more shuttles, and B, we need it to be piloted without power. And so throughout whatever, she realizes that one of the space shuttles is on display in a museum, and also recalls that when Brian and that astronaut who died came back in from the shuttle, he had to get the shuttle back to Earth with no power on it because the nano aliens killed the power in the shuttle. So Fowler is like, Brian Harper is the only man who has ever navigated a space shuttle without power successfully. So we need to go get him to navigate this space shuttle without power because we are going to EMP the nanobots. That's what we're going to do. That's our plan. And now we
So-
need to go get Brian.
Yeah, so then NASA military envoy goes and finds Brian. I don't know how they do, but they find him.
They find him.
And in this hotel, and they're like, Brian, you need to come with us. And then he looks over at Casey sleeping in the hotel bed next to him and is like, well, I'm not leaving without him. And then they're like, all right, I guess we have no objection to that. So then they take them. And then we get some really hilarious scenes of people looting and being like, "Oh wait, money's pointless," and yeah.
Oh yeah, we do, don't we?
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway.
So then they more or less then all get to the site of the new NASA mission to save the world, and Halle Berry is like, well, thanks to our good friends at SpaceX and China, we have all the things that we need to pull this off. And so then they start like prepping to do this mission.
Yes, just to be frank, there is no less than like 3 really overt references to Elon Musk and SpaceX.
Yeah.
Like there's a point where KC asks himself, what would Elon do?
There's also a point where he like says, I don't know if you caught this, he just literally goes like, I love Elon.
Yes, he does. Yeah, it's after they say our friends at SpaceX have a refueling station already in orbit, where KC goes, I love Elon.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, so then they get here, they jerk off SpaceX in China, and then they're like, all right, we're about ready to like do this. And they're just like, shoot, one of our engines is leaking coolant. Well, I guess saving the world's off. Everybody go home. Yep. And everybody's just like, oh, man, I was really looking forward to saving the world.
Well, because they're like, all right, there's going to be a crew. The military is going to detonate the bomb. Like, you don't have to do anything but navigate Mr. Brian Harper. Brian Harper. And they're like, KC, Fowler, you'll stay here. You'll help navigate the... Well, KC will be here, I guess. I don't think he's helping with anything.
Yeah.
But Fowler will help navigate the mission, and they'll run up. But then, yes.
Also, by the way... like you're not going to be doing any of this, so that we're only doing this just as a fail-safe. But here's how you would work the bomb if you did have to, but you won't have to.
Anything goes wrong. Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah. So anyway, because they're like, oh, you need to detonate the bomb. Like you need to know how to detonate the bomb, and fucking I keep forgetting. Okay, Brian Harper is like. Oh, well, I'm not touching that fucking bomb. Like, I'm not going to detonate. I don't care. I'm not a soldier. I'm an astronaut. I don't detonate bombs.
I won't fight your wars.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And they're like, yeah, we hear you, man, but you need to know how to do it just in case we're all fucked. And so basically an earthquake happens for whatever reason, and then they're like, oh, one of our engines is leaking coolant.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we can't make the launch if one of our engines is leaking coolant.
Well, pack it up. Go home, everybody.
Right.
And yeah, so everybody, like literally everybody, except for like our 3 like main characters at this point, being Casey, Brian, and Fowler, and just 2 random like mission control type dudes, have literally left. Like you see them get on a plane, and the plane flies off.
Right.
And also, this is also the point where like Mike and I were like, all right, cool. This is like Act 2 wrapping up.
I will
Okay,
touch
we'll get
on
there.
the exact moment that I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah. So so they're like, well, we gave it our all. Which again, they really give up pretty quickly to be like, well, our one chance to save the world has failed. But that's neither here nor there.
Casey is in the office with the 2 NASA kind of like projectionist fellas. And Casey's like, so is this your current projection of the moon's descent towards Earth? And they're like, yeah, this is our current projection. And Casey looks at the board for like a second, and he's like, wait a minute. You failed to account for the increasing mass of the moon as blah, 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 blah. And so he goes and like erases a number and puts a different number. And it's like, with this in the calculations, this should be our new projection. So,
and then conveniently is like, every rule about science that could possibly just make this not work is out the window now.
Right. They're like, because it's something about where they're like, Oh, that's how do we arrive at that? And more or less, Casey's like, you're forgetting the moon is a mega structure. Your rules no longer apply to this. Science is out the window in regards to this. And they're like, okay.
But yeah, so then one way or another, then Casey is like, wait, the moon will be above us, and it will make gravity make it easier to do it. So we just might barely be able to get the shuttle into space using the extra gravity without the one engine that's not working. And so then they're like, all right, well, I guess the three of us are the only crew left, and these other mission control dudes can, like, do mission control stuff. So I guess, yeah, we'll do this with the crew that we got.
Yep.
And then, like, as they do that, Halle Berry has a very cringy moment with her son. And it's like, all right, you're going to go with your... Oh, yeah, also, at some point, the fucking, like, son was, like, gotten out of jail because Brian was like, all right, NASA, I'll do it, but you got to get my son out of jail.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right. So then they just bring the son there.
I guess NASA
and,
has that pool.
you know, they have angsty father-son moments.
Whatever.
And yeah, so now the Earth crew is the Earth crew, meaning the people who are the stars of the B plot, are the Halle Berry's son, Brian Harper's son, and the like Chinese tutor, like foreign exchange student who's there.
Yep.
And so she Halle Berry goes up to her son and is like, all right, you and this group of people are gonna go with your dad to the military bunker, okay? I love you more than all the stars in the sky because this is a movie about space. And he's like, okay. And then they go. So la-di-da-di-da, they do the space launch, and while they're doing that, there's like the unforeseen circumstance of the high gravity of the moon is that there's essentially like a tsunami, tidal wave type thing coming towards them. And yeah, so then mission control people do what mission control people do, and they do all that, and then they're like, oh, okay, we have to get on this helicopter and get out. And so then they try to do that, and it actually has like it has some moments where they're jumping and the gravity's all weird, and they make it to the helicopter, and then the helicopter immediately gets swallowed into the tsunami and they die. And then the SpaceX China rocket goes into space, or is attempting to go into space, but the tidal wave is hitting it. Oh, okay, wait, never mind. The moon helped it. They're fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the entire... And it feels exactly like this, where they're like, we might not clear the wave. Oh, no, we did. We might not make it out of orbit. Oh, wait, we did.
Yeah, okay, well, good thing we didn't, or else this movie would be over.
Right.
Yeah, and so then they make it into space.
But that's what's weird about that whole sequence is that like they don't do any actions to like, oh, we would have hit the wave if we didn't do this,
hit
or like
the thrusters.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
No.
None of that. It's just like
all right,
we might hit
fingers,
this
everybody.
wave. Oh no, wait, we didn't hit that wave. We might not clear orbit. Oh wait, no, we had just enough. That's cool.
Oh man, that sucks about those other guys. But we did
it. And so they're in space, and they like have their shuttle. And they're ready to like go and start making their way to the moon to do it.
However, off in the distance, we have in like the military Humvee, we have it pulled over to the side of the road, and then we have the children of the astronauts and the Chinese tutor just staring and watching this, and they're like, "Hooray! They made it!" Oh God! Wait, that tidal wave's coming right for us.
Right,
so then they have to get back into the thing and
nonsense.
escape this tidal wave, to which they like just barely do.
Dumb, so
probably, I don't remember exactly, but probably with the help of moon gravity.
So dumb.
Yeah.
So they're in orbit, and it's just the three of them, you know, getting their little like chemistry together on their way to the moon to set off the CMP to defeat this nanobot. And this is the exact moment where I was like, all right, cool. We're wrapping up the film. We're gonna go to the moon. We're gonna set off the CMP. It's been a bit of a slog, but we're all right. And you had to go like do something real quick, so you paused the film. And it was at that moment that I realized we were 1 hour and 15 minutes into a 2 2-hour and 10-minute film.
Yeah.
And I just thought, no. My heart sank. Like, I was just like, oh, my sweet Christ. No.
Yeah, no, I had a somewhat similar feeling because I remember, because we rented this off Amazon to watch it. And when when we're on, like, the Amazon Select thing, like, it tells you the length of the movie. And I thought I saw it be like 2.5 hours or something like that.
Right.
2 hours 10 minutes. And we're watching this movie, and again, it kind of feels like we're getting to the point where things are wrapping up.
Right.
And I remember thinking like, I either read that wrong or we have been sitting here a lot longer than I thought.
Right.
And yeah, then we saw the timeline when we paused the movie, and it was like, oh,
fucking A.
Oh man.
I saw it and I was like, dude, I cannot tolerate like more mishaps and like more plot of this film. I'm done. I'm done with the movie at this point. Like, I'm just like, can we just fucking kill this alien and like do the obligatory, like, I'm tired and I don't like this movie. Like, can we just wrap it up?
And honestly, I would have this movie still would have sucked ass, but I would have enjoyed this movie a lot more if that's what happened. If they like, went up, had some like maybe like 1 or 2 Armageddon style, like, oh no, something's happening. We have to fix this on the fly or the world's gonna end. Oh, okay, we did it. Whoa, world saved. Movie ends. Right. Instead of the fucking ending that we got. But we are getting there.
We'll get to that.
So,
there's like an hour of film more to go through here.
All right, let's try to pick up the pace, see what we can do. So yeah, so now they're in space.
I am now re-deflated from the realization this fucking film. Oh my god, I hate it.
Yeah,
all right,
no, this movie sucked.
Let's go.
But yeah, so they're in space, and what's his name? KC is taking pictures on his phone because you don't get to go to space very often. So he's like taking pictures to like rub in the face of every high school bully he ever had who said he wasn't going to space.
Yeah. They have the EMP linked up to a ship that has the power on, so the alien should go for it. But the alien completely ignores the rover.
Okay, yes,
and immediately starts to go for them in the ship. And Brian's like, well, fuck, why? And he looks at the remote in his hands to detonate the bomb, and he's like, oh shit, I gotta destroy this. He turned it off because he uses it later, so I don't know what this is all about. Yeah. He turns it off.
because he does like fucking smash
He smashes it. Like, he completely smashes it on the side, and it's like, all right, cool, that turned it off. That's good.
Yeah.
And then
because then he notices that, like, oh, it's still coming, and he turns around, and Casey is still holding his phone.
Right.
So then he takes Casey's phone and smashes it, and they don't die. And again, I just want to clarify this because, again, we saw that the remote is smashed.
Right.
And we know it's smashed because then Casey says, why didn't you just turn my phone off? And then he's just like, oh, we didn't have time or whatever.
Right.
So clearly there was like, everything was smashed, and he's like, why didn't you turn it off? So I don't know, like we said, I don't know what makes the remote for the EMP salvageable, but unimportant.
Whatever.
So then they kind of jump to the conclusion, like, pretty much immediately, like, there's no, like, any kind of further indication of this. They're like, wait a second. The difference between that lifeless aircraft that has the electronics on it and our aircraft is that we had both electronics and organic matter. So they're after only things that have both. And then Casey is like the human race. And then they're like, yeah.
Yeah. The way they phrase it is like the alien AI thing is searching specifically for organic life in an electronic environment. And KC says, oh, that's humans. Like, that's just humans.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, and so there you go.
It's pretty deep when you think about it.
Sure. Sure, very deep indeed. Humans and pets in pet stores. Yeah. Anyway,
so then probably like around this time we have B-plot crew who is making their way, and they like stop because there's like a broken down truck or something, and people are like, hey, we need some help. And then unsurprisingly, those people pull a gun on the crew and are like, okay, give us all your stuff and also the Humvee. And so, they have no option but to do that, and they do that. And then Brian's son is like, oh, don't worry, I know where we can get a car in these mountains.
Yep.
So they then, I think, cut back to space.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think they're flying into the moon without power is what they're doing.
Yeah. So they do that, and they're like, oh, wow, the moon is not only hollow, but it's some kind of big machine. And then Casey's like, a mega structure. Oh, my God. And then I guess back to the humans on Earth. And they're like, oh, okay, like we found, I guess Brian's son is like, hey, I just need to get my car at this place that is guarded by heavily armed people.
Right.
And then they get shot at. They don't get shot, but they're like warning shots. And then a car pulls up, and then we see Tom, the stepfather of Brian's son, and he's like, oh, hey, Brian's Sonny. That's his name. I keep forgetting. It's easy to remember because he's the son.
Because he's the son, yes.
That's probably as much thought as the writers put into that.
Sonny.
But yeah, and he's like, oh, hey, Sonny, like you made it to Colorado. Awesome. Get in the car.
Yeah.
And then that's that. And so now the families are reunited to some extent. And all the while they at some point like called Halle Berry's ex-husband, or like, hey, we're on the way to the compound. And he's like, okay. And that's about that. Yeah, so they have their exploits. They're hanging out. At some point, there's like a radio cast or newscast, some type of thing that's like, oh, hey, people in the mountain region, the Earth's or the moon's gravity is going to make the oxygen very hard to breathe. So deal with that.
Yeah, right.
So then they go on a quest to get oxygen.
Yep.
And they find a place that has oxygen, and then are encountered by the same people who robbed them before, who then robbed them again for the oxygen.
Yep.
Then they turn the tables with their guns and take the oxygen back.
Yep.
High-speed chase ensues with crazy gravity. Whoa!
In like the last segment of it, but yeah.
Yeah, and then they make it to safety.
Yes. Meanwhile, in the moon, I guess, basically they're like, whoa, it is a megastructure. Whoa, inside the rings there are like fields and produce. Whoa, like it is a white dwarf star,
which Casey had mentioned.
Right. Like, whoa. Yeah. And so basically, the power gets turned on somehow or something like that. I don't know. I forget what they're trying to do. But something happens where the ship is being pursued by the AI alien now. Yeah. And then the controls of the ship get overtaken by some mysterious force, which pulls them into like one of the rings of this mega structure.
It has like a hidden room of some kind.
Yeah, exactly. And so their ship gets pulled in there.
And then they all get like knocked out upon landing in there.
Right.
And then I guess back to the people who are doing their thing. And so now I guess their car is incapacitated. I don't know if that's the right word, but the car's not working. And they're walking around with their oxygen masks on, trying to get to like this tunnel type thing. And then one of the stepfather's daughters is like, "Daddy, I can't breathe." And then he's like, "Oh, don't worry, honey." And then he gives her his oxygen mask.
Whatever.
He's like, "All right, just like the song I used to sing to you,
or
left,
whatever,
right, left,
or
right."
whatever. Yeah.
And then she walks, and then everybody turns around.
Dumb.
It's like, "Wait a second, where's Tom?" I think his name is. And his daughter, whose name I don't remember. And they're like, "Oh, wait, there's the daughter. But where's Tom? Oh, wait, no time to worry about it because something is coming down from the moon."
No, they're like, no time to worry about it because oxygen's coming back.
Oh.
And so now we can take off these oxygen masks and go look for Tom.
Yeah. And then I guess they go to do that, and I think only Sonny is like at the mouth of this like tunnel, and then like something falls down, like a big tree or something, and
like
blocks off like the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
But then Chinese tutor lady is like, "I'll go help Sonny. You guys go." And then she's trying to help Sonny from being crushed to death.
Yes.
And then back in space, I guess.
For sure.
Oh God, and this is where shit.
Halle Berry and KC wake up and are like, "Where's Brian?" Meanwhile, Brian is in like the white room from the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and is talking to like a hologram of his of Sonny when he was like a baby, and just dumb dialogue about like, why is this memory important to you? And then like Brian's like, "'Cause you're my baby," or whatever, you know. And
Pretty much.
And so Like, it's what we learn is that the moon has a
this
consciousness.
This is where they take a literal bucket of exposition and just like dump it all out on the floor here.
The moon has a consciousness that is like an AI-esque type of thing, but it's not AI.
Yeah.
No, or at least not aggressive AI, and is probing Brian's mind, taking the form most pleasing to him and using it to kind of like understand his emotional state and the kind of person he is. So like he talks to him through various forms of his child, and then it's just like, all right, here's the deal.
There were humans long before you were around, and we were on like a far distant galaxy, planet, blah blah blah, and we had paradise, and everything was great. War was gone. We had these cool AI that did everything for us until the AI decided to turn against us, and then war happened again, and that war being AI killing everybody. And so then your ancestors, in the meantime, had been working on essentially what you know as the moon, and it was going to survey the Earth survey the galaxy to find a suitable place for humankind to flourish once more. And you might wonder why these weren't manned, but that's because then the stupid AI monsters would attack it, and we only got one finished, and that's your moon. So we sent it to this part of the galaxy where it created your Earth, and thus you. Yep.
And then basically Casey and Fowler find Brian as soon as he like comes back out of this like
white void
state. Yes, right. And they're like, what the hell? And Brian's like, I know what I must do. Because they're like, you need to detonate the EMP manually and sacrifice yourself for the good of humanity. And Brian's like, okay, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, so then they all get into the like pod thing that they crashed into this room in, and they like do some awesome maneuvering and dodge the AI. And then they go into like this little other cylindrical like hole. Actually, I think it was just the entrance that we had seen earlier. But they're in there. At some point, the military's like, all right,
this doesn't matter.
I have to say it. I have to say it.
You don't have to do it. The scene doesn't matter.
Right. No, it does, because that's where her husband just fucking eats it. But
okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So the military is like, all right, everybody get your nuke keys ready. We're gonna nuke the moon. And so then everybody is like turning their nuke keys to set off the nukes.
Okay,
except
two
for
people
one.
are turning nuke. It's not like everyone in the room has a nuke key.
I thought there was like 30 people with nuke
it's like
keys.
Two people.
Okay, whatever. So the two people with nuke keys are getting ready to turn their keys, one of which being Fowler, Halle Berry's character's ex-husband. And then he's like, I can't let my wife get nuked to death. So he like takes
Not
the
yet.
key and like pulls out his gun. He's like, I'm not nuking anything.
All right.
And they're like, what the hell? This is bigger than your wife. Like, burn. No. So they're like, this is more important than your wife not getting nuked. I don't want my wife to get rained on by the moon. And then he's like, well, too bad. And then the bunker collapses in on itself, and then presumably everybody in the bunker dies.
Oh, sweet Christ.
Yeah. So and then Brian's like prepping the EMP thing, and is like, all right, Casey, I need you to like watch out the back window to make sure that the AI thing isn't coming for us yet while we like prep this and talk this out, basically.
Right.
And so then Brian and Fowler are like, no, I'm going to sacrifice myself and die. No, I'm going to sacrifice myself and die. And then while they do that, Casey is like, you know what? Silently to himself, I'm going to sacrifice myself and die.
Right.
And so then, like, they're so back and forth. I'm going to escape pod activating. And then they look back and they're like, huh? And then Casey's just like waving like goodbye, more or less.
Yeah, they talk a little bit, but might as well. Fucking might as well. Yeah.
That's so stupid. But yeah, so then he's like, oh, tell my mom that I didn't die a failure, and then just like shoots off into the AI thing and makes the EMP thing go off.
And to be fair, he kind of did die a failure, but like posthumous, posthumously. What is it?
Posthumously.
Posthumously,
like
whatever it is. He will be a hero, but he definitely died a loser.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and he's definitely going to tell his mom.
he's definitely going to bring up that distinction to his mother. Make sure she's lucid too. Anyway, yes.
Oh, and also while the moon is like over top of Sunny getting crushed by the tree, the Chinese lady is like, "Oh, the gravity's helping us. We can." I think she goes, "The moon is helping us."
Yes,
and then they like
does in fact say the moon is helping
they lift
us,
the tree trunk off of him, and he survives.
Whatever.
And then space pod crashes onto Earth, and Halle Berry and Brian are safe, and they're like, "Wow, that was crazy. We make a pretty good team, huh?" All right, well, there's the rescue helicopter. Wave your arms. And then they do that. And then next scene is that said helicopter landing next to both of their surviving families. And it's like, well, we did it. Oh, hey, where's Tom? Oh, he died? Man, that sucks. Meet my new girlfriend. And
well, yes. More
then
or
the
less.
movie ends.
More or less. Not literally, but yeah. No, because they're like, oh, where's Tom? And they're like, oh, he died. And he's like... Ooh, and they're like, oh, where's that weird dude that y'all were with? And he's like, oh, he died. And they're like,
But he died a hero.
Yes. But how he actually died, as we learn, because why not? Why not? Is now he's part of like the moon white room singularity thing, and like he sees his mom lucid in her chair and his cat, but like his mom lucid in her chair. And she's like, welcome to, like, the moon or whatever.
I'm proud of you, my boy.
Yeah. And more or less, she's all like, you'll be witness to, like, what's to come. Fuck that.
Yeah, and then credits roll.
Fuck that.
Yeah, that was a really fucking bad movie. So I have a couple things to say before we get into reviews and that nonsense.
Oh, go on, then.
I fucking hate AI and nanotech.
Sure.
In movies. It's the worst. I hate it. Like, it's so lazy. Like, again, I'll say, as somebody who is like, cut the Marvel movies some slack. They're fun. That's even something, I know you haven't really seen them, but, like, in the, like, later movies that had Iron Man in them, like, he had, like, a nanotech suit.
Right.
And it's, like, it's just so lazy because you can just, like, be like, oh, it's basically magic, but it's science.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Right.
And that's such a cop-out,
Mm-hmm.
And again, to the Marvel movies' credit, at least it was fucking entertaining when they do it.
Right.
But this, it's just, like, amorphous blob. It's, like, so uninspired, not cool or scary or anything that you want these types of things to be. And then just, again, AI, it's like... I can't think of a more cliche, like, sci-fi villain than, oh, AI turned bad.
Yeah, whatever.
It's like, shut up. Oh, I hate it. It's so dumb. I think we've had podcasts where I talk about how I hate, like movie technology, and this is no exception to that at all. And then also, as you noted before we started recording, this was directed by the same guy who did The Day After Tomorrow, and for me, at least, more notably, 2012.
Right.
And so, I don't know if you know these numbers, but Moonfall lost $90 million in the box office. It had a budget of like $150 million and only made $40 million.
Well, there you go.
I guess it's 110. Anyway,
Good.
It lost a lot of money.
Good.
2012, on the other hand,
Made a bunch.
it made over $500 million.
Yeah.
And I feel like, because, I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen 2012. Like, I feel like the one of the biggest differences in, like, one of the things that makes this... Well, okay, I guess, actually, let me rephrase this. I think regardless of, like, whether this movie is good or bad, has less to do with, like, how it did in the box office,
Right.
you know? Because, like, there are plenty of terrible movies that perform really well in the box office, but because they have something that, like, grabs the audience.
Right.
Like, because I don't know what the critical reception of 2012 is like. I feel like it's probably, like, not phenomenal, though.
Probably not.
You know,
no.
like, everybody likes cool disaster scenes, but as far as the plot goes, I'm sure it's not anything, like, groundbreaking.
I know in high school,
Mm-hmm.
our science teacher, for like an end of the year senior kind of thing,
Uh-huh.
was like, oh, at the end of the year, we're going to watch 2012 and like pause and laugh at the ridiculousness of some of this nonsense.
Exactly. So, again, not to say that that's, like, a good movie, but it made $500 million.
Yes, it did.
So I think, this is my speculation, that one of the big reasons that there is the discrepancy in how well these movies did is that with 2012, there was like some kind of like real life anxiety tied in with that,
or at least meme anxiety.
What is that?
Or at least meme anxiety.
Well, no, I mean, I was. Yeah, it's funny. I was doing the math earlier. I was probably like 14 when this movie came out, so probably a little bit too old to be scared of this. But I was still like, oh my god, what if the world actually ends in 2012?
The Mayans,
but like,
the Mayans.
I mean, I think that there were like a subset of people who like. Well, I mean, I guess rather whether you were actually convinced that the world was going to end in 2012 or not. Like you say, there's like the meme value of it. There was relevancy to this thing. So like even whether you believed in the 2012 conspiracy or not, it's like, oh, there's this movie about this thing everybody is talking about. Like, let's go see it and see like what potentially could happen. That kind of stupid thing.
Yeah.
But with this, there's none of that. I feel like I don't know. I feel like that plays a big part into the difference in success in these movies.
Well, and it's like more than 10 years past when 2012 happened. So it's like, dude, it's been a lot of time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you can do the same kind of tired action disaster movie type stuff that you would have done in like 2011 or 2010
that's
now and expect like positive reception. People just aren't interested in that nonsense right now.
Yeah. Bad movie. Not good.
Really bad.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say before we
I
get
think
into
they should have
reviews and
eliminated like the son, the Mandarin tutor, the other child, the exes of all of the characters.
Yeah, no, that was something that we had talked about immediately after the movie was over. It was like I mean, again, I'll reiterate, I don't think this would have made the movie any like better, but at least a little bit more watchable because it wouldn't be so stupidly long.
Yeah.
It's like just sub the B plot stuff with those characters with just like, oh man, this crater is being made by the moon piece falling. Wow, that was cool visually. All right, back to Armageddon stuff.
Right. It probably would have made the film closer to 90 minutes. Yeah. Thank Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And B, they could have just spent more time making any scene like worthwhile.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was like, I feel like there was a lot of like tension between characters and stuff, and just like stuff that was like implied, but it was like there's been no basis for me to like feel like this is earned between these characters.
Yeah, look, dude, there was a father who died while his child had to like walk away from him.
Yeah.
His very young child had to walk away from him from an oxygen mask.
And we felt nothing because it's like
nothing, absolutely nothing, nothing at all. Like, dude. So clearly there's something wrong here with the way you're putting your story together. If that scene comes and the audience is like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Actually, I will say that's like the one thing I'll give this movie, and this is a very, very small props to them, is I am glad that Tom stayed dead.
Oh yeah, well,
because I with the trajectory of this movie and the way things went, I could have very well seen them like pulling that to try to get like the heartstrings going, and then once the oxygen came back, it's like, oh Tom, you actually didn't die.
Right,
so I'm really glad at the very least that they committed to that instead of just like kind of faking it.
Sure. Why not? Sure.
Well, I guess while talking about the amazing performances that these actors gave. Are you ready to read some reviews? I have one that seems pretty relevant to this.
Go on.
Okay. So this is a 5-star review from a user by the name of Isaac Success Oleoi. I probably pronounced it wrong.
It's great.
Spelled weird. But anyway, it reads, I love a movie that sparks new thoughts and ideology. Given the fact that this seems like the very first of its kind, playing the moon as a megastructure, our ancestor civilization, the aliens we all came to believe are our own handiwork, self-aware artificial intelligence, binary AI, all these things make you begin to think out of the box of the history that has been shoved down our throat. Sorry. let me reread that. All these makes you... Okay, yeah, no, I'm reading that right. All these makes you begin to think out of the box of the history that has been shoved down our mind for centuries.
Yes, what a turn.
Aside from the learning experience that
What?
Aside from the learning experience, this is a good movie with great cast
What did
who
you
didn't
learn?
miss their acts. For an Moon-pioneered artificial intelligence movie, that is perfect. I think the production crew deserves an Oscar. They also brought in names of inventors and inventions like Elon Musk, SpaceX, refueling a space shuttle by already created shuttles hanging around the Earth. Something we all can relate with. Unlike ancient landmarks we have no ideas
Something
of.
we all can relate with.
So I think, to recap, what this guy is saying, well, one, I think he's kind of seeing this less as a science fiction thing, given the sparks of new thoughts and ideology.
Sure.
But, anywho, this person seems to be saying that at least with the more technological things of our time, we have some connection to them as opposed to just history. Yeah, no, I mean, not a valid point at all, but I guess that's what this person's trying to say.
Sure.
But yeah, that's Isaac Success Olaoi.
Whatever. Dumb.
Do you have any reviews to read, Mike?
I suppose I do.
Okay.
But
I do have one-star review that I'll read after yours.
That's good. All right. I can't pronounce the name of the person who wrote this, so I'm not going to try. Alrighty. To be honest, I'm surprised this film was a box office bomb. Given how cool its visual effects and action sequences are, Moonfall is not the first of its kind and is a typical sci-fi action film where a major disaster threatens the planet, but the execution is really good, and I personally enjoyed every second of it. Roland Emmerich has already proven with The Day After Tomorrow in 2012 that he's one of the best disaster movie directors, and Moonfall is another worthy addition to this genre. The story is not very complex. It's a simple and straightforward one with some decent exposition that somehow doesn't bore or annoy you, they contend. And with the action sequences dominating most of the duration, again, what? I don't know about that. You just need to sit back and enjoy the ride. I don't think there's a better way to enjoy this film other than on the big screen. But since it's out of cinemas, sadly, it at least deserves to be owned on Blu-ray. A lot of spectacular shots in the space can be used as picturesque wallpapers. The visual and technical aspects are so good, this film could have benefited from a 3D release. But nevertheless, it's enjoyable no matter what format it is in. And the performances from all actors are terrific. The editing is good, and the film manages to captivate you for 2 hours without hassle. Without hassle, he says. No hassle in that 2 hours and 10 minutes. I'm not saying it's absolutely flawless, but I enjoyed it so much there was no time for nitpicking. Moonfall is a fun movie, better enjoyed on a large screen with popcorn and beverages. Don't try to question each and everything that happens, and you might find yourself enjoying a typical yet superb action movie.
You see, Mike, that's our problem. We watched this on my couch. I had a water and some potato chips.
Yeah, I don't think we had popcorn at all.
Yeah, I don't even think you had any snacks.
No,
we watched this
I didn't.
on my television, where we streamed it off my PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the quality is nowhere near that
Wait,
of the
can't the
theater
PS3 play
experience.
Blu-rays anyway?
Well, yeah, but streaming? Come on, Mike.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think we just don't understand because we didn't get the theater experience.
Yeah, I think this guy really pegged us in that, like, we really went into this, like, really looking for stuff to be really, like, kind of angry. Like, that's just the nature of us. In no way was this movie just really just dull and boring and terrible.
All right, well, I guess I'll read my last review here. So this last review is from a user by the name of Rose Cooper.
Okay.
1 star, and it reads, how could Huai Brothers... Oh, I'll start again. How could Huai Brothers Pictures go wrong with a fabulous cast that includes Patrick Wilson, Halle Berry, John Bradley, who played Sam Tarly in the Game of Thrones, Michael Pena, and Donald Sutherland? I love the disaster movie genre, but Moonfall is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I actually walked out at about the 40-minute mark. First time in 30 years. The story was choppy, the dialogue was mismatched, often an actor's response didn't match what another actor just said, and the special effects were third-rate at best. Do yourself a favor and give this one a miss. Yeah, I wish we could have walked out.
I suppose we could have in a certain sense, but
I paid $6 for this movie. That's a commitment that I stick to, Mike.
All right, I'm going to read Sydney Holt's 1-star review.
Sure.
Mainly because I think this is a bit of a roller coaster, and I'm in for it. All right, I'm not a scientist, by the way. Anyway, never have I been offended by a movie like I've been offended by Moonfall. Somehow, they took aliens, Dyson spheres, AI, interstellar travel, and government cover-ups and made it boring. Imagine putting the script of Interstellar through Google Translate 15 times and making a movie based off of that. Take some of the worst acting and scientific inaccuracies, and you have Moonfall. This script was written by flat earthers. You can tell because there was not more than 15 minutes of cursory Google searching done in pre-production. If the makers of the movie had Googled, they would have known that you can calculate mass and predict planetary movement with the formula of F equals G, parentheses, M1 times M2 over R squared. That's a formula I learned in 10th grade. They would also know that delta velocity over acceleration equals 1 and is the most redundant expression to have ever been written. You can't just throw Greek on paper and expect it to make sense, you posers. The makers of this movie watched a 5-minute video on Dyson spheres and then decided they were authorities on them. Repeat after me. Dyson spheres, if they were to exist, are built around massive stars. If you believe you have found a Dyson sphere, you should not fly into it unless you want a deadly blast of ionizing radiation and your skin removed from your body. Also, stars are bigger than the moon. It blows my mind that the budget of this movie is $146 million. If you hand me that much money, I could make 146 million movies, because the only equipment I would need to make a movie better than this is my friends and an iPhone. Also, massive point reduction for the huge SpaceX ads inserted every 20 seconds. Yeah. If I were Elon Musk, I'd be embarrassed to have my name anywhere near this movie. As a writer, aspiring astrophysicist, and sane member of society, this movie has dealt incurable psychic damage. It's my moral duty to warn you of this abomination masquerading as a movie. Save yourselves. It's too late for me. I've lost brain cells and Sir Isaac Newton is rolling in his grave. I now understand what Nikola Tesla meant when he said we will live to see man-made horrors beyond our comprehension.
I guess I have two things to say to that. One is that reminded me of when we first hear the line, what would Elon do?
Right.
I was like, quick, somebody get me a stewardess to harass. So that's topical humor for you.
That's good, yeah.
Secondarily, I feel like, obviously I share the sentiment that this movie sucks, but like, I think this movie sucks because it's dumb, not because the science fiction is not accurate. Like,
oh, well, yeah.
Like I feel like that's the least thing of my concern with this movie. Like,
right, like you don't have to be an aspiring astrophysicist to be offended by this film.
Yeah, and furthermore, you don't have to have accurate astrophysicist or astrophysics stuff to have a good movie.
Right,
you know,
of course.
Like if you just, I mean, honestly, yeah, like just. You could have the most, like, harebrained, like, illogical shit. As long as you just have, like, a good, like, stupid, like, movie explanation for it and a good, entertaining plot, I can overlook that.
Yeah, I'm in. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I very clearly agree with this movie, or with this person, that this movie is ass. But I think we have bones to pick for different reasons. But
Yes.
yeah, yeah. No, this movie was a bummer. It really was. I really didn't know what to expect from the trailer because like I don't know, like I feel like, you know, at first I got drawn in by the title and the Armageddon style, like, oh, the moon is gonna fall, we have to do something about that,
Right?
And I knew it was probably not gonna be good, maybe
of
an
course.
entertaining movie,
Right.
but like the fact that they had like the alien monster thing like in the trailer, like that's when I was like, wow, this movie is going to be like really bad.
Right.
And I don't know what to say other than it really like surpassed every expectation. I like.
Well, except the
I don't know.
expectation that it would be entertaining.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
that's true. That's very true.
It's just
That
very
was
boring.
overlooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this movie's a bummer. Please, users, please, listeners, like send us your requests for movies to watch. We would love to watch anything that's terrible and fun. So please give us your recommendations. We're desperate, as you can see.
Yeah.
With that, I don't know what else. Oh, God, this movie sucks. It sucks. It really sucks. And with that, it gets a out of. And I don't think I can say any more about this movie before my heart stops working and my brain implodes upon itself.
You know, I'm almost certain I've given like bottom of the barrel reviews to movies that we've seen throughout this thing. And in a certain sense, like to emphasize how awful this movie was, I almost like feel like I need to get outside of like the actual rating system or just refuse to rate it. Like I really, really strongly dislike this movie.
Yeah, just don't rate it out of protest.
Well, you know, I could, but you know, I think to emphasize, I'm going to give this a negative.
Not because they are easy,
Out of.
because they are hard.
And I think that's about as low as I can go for anything. Really, it would take a heck of a movie for me to consider going lower than that.
Yeah. Like I'd have to look at a list of episodes that we've already done just to remind myself which bad movies we've seen. Because I know we've definitely seen a couple stinkers where
Right.
I have walked away with a very similar feeling. So I can't say with certainty that this is the absolute worst that we've watched. But given that we haven't watched anything for the podcast in a while, that this is not a good not a good movie to start on. But
No.
we did it for you. I hope you liked this episode. And I'm speaking to you directly, Tom. There's got to be someone named Tom.
Yeah, you
listening
think?
out there. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
come
I
on.
hope so.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's that. Oh, by the way, I mentioned this to our extended cut listeners, but my cat was pregnant, and I have 4 kittens now. So everybody also please comment or send us a
Cat
tweet
toys.
or something
Oh.
that says congratulations, church.
Yo, use the best.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you for listening, and we'll watch a less shitty movie next time.
Yeah, for the sake of Mama Church.